I think I prefaced this earlier about the whole point of this show, this podcast, whatever you want to call it, this channel, is to have conversations with diverse people, backgrounds, whatever, and see if there's ways to learn about your entrepreneur experience, learn about marketing, learn about whatever it is you're doing, and see if there's ways to apply it to other industries. That being said, other than your name being Emma and you're wearing this fabulous hat,
thank you.
What is it that you do?
So I am involved with the beef cattle sector of agriculture. And so I sell a software system that helps cattle producers track where their expenses are going from a feed, labor, as well as medical expenditures. So that's what I generally do, and then do some consultant work on the side and things like that. But
so, what does that mean?
Which part?
All of it.
All of it.
I heard beef.
You heard beef.
Right. And I understand cattle. Yeah. Cattle. I understand hamburgers.
There you go.
No, I mean obviously it makes sense. Like if I have a pound of beef and it costs X dollars. But it's not like feed or not feed. It's not like corn where it takes time. I'm trying to, I don't know.
I'll help you. So
yeah. Well, I just know like if I have a calf, it's not ready to be eaten.
Yes.
Or there's nothing. It's not a resource for months or years or whatever.
Months, yep. And it costs you something to feed that animal.
Right. That's
so
what,
this
thank you.
system,
we can just cut out all that.
All that. So our program focuses mainly on smaller feeder operations. So the feedlots, so the confined pens, where you manually feed them every day, about 15 to 20,000 head or less. Most of our clients are 1,500 to 2,500, which is small compared to like Lubbock Feeders is 15 minutes from my doorstep, but they're 56,000 head operation. They have a lot more financial freedom to input costs for machines and different tracking systems. Ours is geared towards smaller guys, and then also it is a lot more financially feasible program for them to get started on. And it's to help them track how much money they are putting out there and helping to lower those costs. So, so each ration, so ration is just the food that these calves get, right? They're all specially formulated. So a lot of these feedlot operations will bring in a nutritionist. The nutritionist looks at the cattle and says, hey, I think that we should have distillers, silage, cottonseed hulls, a little bit of mineral, this liquid feed, and we're going to feed them 25 pounds per head per day in order to get a certain amount of
You say 25 pounds per day per head?
Yeah. So there's a thing called ADG, and it stands for average daily gain. And what that means is how many pounds that beef animal individually is putting on per day. So, not just ingesting, but like actually gaining on their body.
So how do they track that? Is it like they're literally a scale that they walk? You know?
Yeah, so it's called check weights. So they can go in and they can see how much they weigh and then how much feed they've been given, and then they check weight them. So they run them through a scale again, and they can divide that out and do the mathematical formulation of exactly what our ADG technically is. What our system does is help not only track what your supposed ADG is, but now each of those commodity ingredients, so your corn, your distillers, each ingredient for that ration costs you something.
Right.
Recently, especially corn and even cottonseed hulls, like other byproducts, because there's a shortage of it because of the drought, and like brewer's grain, things like that.
I didn't even know there was a drought.
I'm
joke,
not kidding.
Right? I'm not kidding.
Oh, wow. Okay, yeah. This is the worst drought.
I live in Dallas.
This is the worst drought that we've had probably since 2011, if not 2008.
Really?
It is
your face
devastating.
When you're like, are you kidding? How do you not know this?
It is devastating. So there's A lot of all right, so 84% of the ground that we graze cattle on are not suitable for crop production in the United States.
Right.
So with that being said,
why is that? Just because of the nutrients or
topography,
Okay.
poor soil quality, a lot of it's topography. But with that being said, what is being sold the most?
I would say corn.
Oh, well, I meant in land-wise, what's being sold the most? Cropland to urbanization.
Okay.
So now we are losing our natural resource land. You can't make more land. That's why land's so darn expensive. You can't make more land. We're losing land for crop production. We are increasing the requirement or need of people to feed. And so while all still trying to feed out cattle. And so the thing about the whole deal is that with this lack of rain, your cotton is going to go up.
You're talking about price-wise?
Price-wise.
Okay.
So right now the grain market and the cotton market has, within the last 5 days, has received a huge roller coaster. China backed out of the trade agreement we had for cotton. Now the cotton market is just going all over the place. Grain, so Russia with Ukraine, which I personally think that the whole thing with Russia's just trying to get as many natural resources they possibly can because they have to find a way to feed their own people.
Right. I believe the same thing.
Yeah, and I think China's also playing into that. I think they're the one that started the bar fight, and they're the ones that, hey, and then the countries start fighting each other and like, hey, we were just here. I don't know what happened.
Yeah.
Because China can't feed itself.
Yeah, just to pivot on for 2 seconds on that conversation, I personally believe it's like you can justify anything after the fact. I think it was like, hey, I want that thing over there. And then all these other dog whistles or whatever you want to call them, I think they're just made up.
I do too. It's all propaganda. It's all
but it's resources.
Media. Yeah, it's always been about resources.
That's pretty much everything to the dawn of time has been about
because you
resources.
cannot make more land. You cannot. And so country leaders have started to recognize that. Now, China cannot feed itself. They are not sustainable. So China actually rose their export demand from U.S. just for beef, that's just beef products, by 42 or 3% in the last year alone.
Now,
that's the last year
now,
alone.
Is that, you said 42%?
42, 43%.
Well, I'm not going to hold you to it. But 40%, it seems like a lot in a 1 year period. Now, is that in relation to, like, say, 2021? Or because,
Last
like,
year
you know,
alone,
like COVID, everything died down? Or is it like, hey, it's been increasing year to year type thing?
It's been increasing a little bit over time, but not like that.
Okay.
43% is a
So it's not
pretty
like
big
in
jump.
2019, 2020, there was a drop because of COVID, and now it's come back up. It's just been, okay.
No, and last year, the beef product industry for export did $10.3 billion worth of business, and this year, as of now, not even the full year, we're at 12,
so I think
which is massive.
Overall, I think there's going to be just huge ignorance in this subject matter, and that's why it's kind of fascinating. Because, like, one, I generally anything I think about the weather, it's always going to be anecdotal because I'm not paying attention to weather because I don't own any. I don't own any stocks in agriculture. I don't own any agriculture land. I don't own any cattle.
Yep.
So for me, it's like, it was hot this summer.
And a lot of people are on the same level. So that's agricultural education has been one of the things we've been trying to battle for a long time. And how to accurately connect the urban to rural industries has always been an issue. It's not been very receptive, right? Because you can take, Farmer Brown over here that's 95 years old and is like, oh, those city slickers from Austin are stupid. Well, no, they're just ignorant and they're not informed. But then we try to bring information to them, and then they say, absolutely not. You guys are mistreating cattle. They sit in a pen their whole life. Well, that's not true at all. So it's just there's a communication gap, and we've been trying for ages, and it's almost like, I'm not going to say the rural industry is not somewhat partially to blame for this, but the urbanization and the urban industry for sure has been made it very difficult to incorporate agriculture education into the school system and then beyond.
Well, there's been a battle, I would say, since the founding of this country. Because, like, I mean, if you look at history with before
1940s, I would say, yeah.
Well, I would say even before that, in the early 1800s, because before you just had cattle, you had bison that they just grazed, and then you started throwing up barbed wire fences everywhere.
Yeah,
and all of a sudden it's like you're sectioning off everything. So I think there's been a battle for a long time,
and it's so important, especially nowadays, the education and knowing where your food comes from, and then all that information has grown in popularity so much. I think that right now is going to be a vital time for us to strike while the iron is hot.
In regards to what?
To education of agriculture, because you need to understand that there's no such thing as antibiotic-free milk antibiotic milk, because all milk is antibiotic-free.
So, you know where I think that takes place?
In the education system.
No.
Where?
Yellowstone.
Oh, you're talking about the start of that conversation?
What's that?
You're talking about the start of the conversation?
I'm talking about,
Yellowstone.
Because Yellowstone's one of the most I think it's the most popular show on network right now. And it's like, on one hand, you could probably be super annoyed, and like people like thinking, oh, Yellowstone. It's like, that's not, I mean, yeah, there's similarities, but I live it.
We don't throw people over cliffs, I promise.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In the unknown area, whatever it's called.
The train station?
Train station, yeah.
But it has, though. I was telling Jess earlier that the 4.6s had the Return the Remuda sale. That is the largest turnout they have had in a long time.
I don't know. You literally just spoke a different language.
So 4.6s?
I know what the 4.6 is because I watch Yellowstone.
Okay, see, there we go. So 4.6 is about 2.25 hours drive from my front doorstep. I'm out there all the time, pass by their front doorstep all the time, know the breeding manager, Garrett, hi. And so they have an annual sale. Well, this is the largest turnout just in spectators because the 4.6s, it was on TV. And it was so there's this growing popularity of the Western heritage and culture, which formerly has been prosecuted a long time. Now it's just the process of clarifying of what we actually do, because for me personally, maintaining the Western heritage and the way of life is vitally important. I will not marry someone that is not involved in the agriculture industry, because you cannot replace what a kid will learn, see, and do in a tractor, on the back of a horse, processing cattle, versus if they're over there just sitting in front of a television set.
Right.
Which a lot of urban kids are not, because they don't spend time outside.
Well, that's the thing is, like, so Corey has two, you met Corey earlier, he has two kids, and like we were at a baseball game, and one of his kids is like a baby. And he's like on top of a cocktail table thing. And I'm like, I'm the only one like, what's going on here? He's all right. He climbs.
Yeah, he climbs.
And it's just
he
like,
bounces.
but he forces his kids to go outside. Like, you will go outside, you play.
I will not allow my kids to have a video game or cell phone before they're middle school, when they're actually doing like sports with after school sports with teams
I'm
and
not
whatnot,
a parent, so I won't
not either,
comment on
but
anybody's
like,
raising. But,
no, I'm just saying that, like, kudos to him, because a lot of parents don't enforce that, and it's affecting their immune system.
Yeah.
It's affecting their socialization.
You got to eat dirt.
You have to climb trees and skin knees for you to learn about life just from a common sense standpoint.
Well, eating dirt is an evolutionary thing.
Oh yeah, we used to take cow shit that would dry over, and it was cow patty. We would frisbee it. No, frisbee. I wouldn't eat it. No, it's
I'm just
not
saying,
that kind
but
of cookie.
like the reason babies put stuff in their mouths all the time is because they're introducing their system. But I'm not a biologist. I don't know what the hell I'm talking about. But going back to the Yellowstone and all that is, like, if you ask me, I would never even. Like, if I hadn't seen Yellowstone and you're like, I do technology in the cattle and software technology in the cattle industry with feed, I'd be like, wait, what? Yeah. Software, cattle, like.
Now these guys can take their phones as they're rotating cattle, or basically, so there's a pen of cattle. Let's just say, for easy math, there's 50 of them in there. 10 of them are really, really getting big, which means they're the more dominant ones. They're getting to the feed bunk first and the longest. and then they've got 10 really, really light ones. What they'll do is they'll take those, they sort, is the term, we sort out those heavy ends, so those heavier cattle. We put them in another pen with the same build, same weight range on the same ration. Then we take the lighter end and we'll put them in another pen with lighter calves and probably give them a heavier ration or more nutrient dense ration.
Now, are you selling the food or just the software that tracks the food?
The software that tracks.
And then the software kind of just says, when it comes to food, is it kind of like humans where it's like, hey, we got the generic food and then we've got this, hey, let's 10x your, because you care about your cow, you're going to give them this lovely food over here. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, so that's
because you know how if you have a dog, you have the Walmart brand of Roy, or then you've got like Blue Diamond.
So that's a good question. We don't track, we don't really care what feed you give it. That's where nutrition companies come into play. So we work with nutritionists. So a nutritionist can actually have a portal and they can have all their customers on one place. So if you say, hey, I need you to look at this group of cattle, I can look at how they're performing off my laptop without having to drive 5 hours to go look at them. And it provides a lot more clarity, because if you're my feed truck driver and you had too much fun on Friday night and you're feeding at 6 o'clock Saturday morning and you are constantly overfeeding by 100 pounds, that's costing me money. And those calves are going to get fatter quicker, or if you're underfeeding them by 100 pounds, now I think they're not feed efficient, because on the steno or the notepad, you said, oh yeah, my target weight was 1375. I've 1380, like right on the money. No, you're not. So now I know that it's nothing the cattle are doing. It's not the cattle's fault. And it's not the nutritionist's fault. It's the fact that I've got a human error that I need to correct in order to make my cattle more efficient and gain like they're supposed to.
Now seeing that in the data, is that where experience and like having a consultant comes into play? Or is it the software is just obviously like, hey, blinking red light, something's messed up right here?
It's so what it does is there's a Bluetooth scale head on the feed truck or wagon. So a wagon is basically a separate, basically it's a bumper pull trailer kind of looking thing that you pull behind a tractor, and it mixes the feed in this wagon. It's like a blender, portable blender. And you put the ingredients in and it blends it for you. And then you go out and you feed it. You feed. The feed truck is exactly what it sounds like. It's just a giant truck that you put, same thing. So what it does is a Bluetooth scale. There's load cells or weight cells underneath this truck or wagon. And that's how you track how much feed you're putting in or giving. Well, that Bluetooth scale head connects to an iPad or an iPhone. So there's an iPad in that tractor, and as he's loading feed, he's like, okay, my target was 2,300 pounds. I'm at 2,250. I can go ahead and call that good. We're close enough.
Right.
When he gets within 10% of that target goal, it starts flashing yellow. And if he goes over that target goal, then it flashes red. As soon as he hits confirm, that gets saved into the database. It's a web-based system, so you never lose your data. It saves it. Then in the system, it mathematically figures out how much money that ration cost you based on, if you said my cost of corn is $3.80 a ton, it does the math for you. When you put out feed, it does the math again.
Now, when you're putting out feed, and sorry if I'm interrupting.
No. Go ahead.
But are you like partitioning off the different cattle so you know, hey, cow one is getting 25 pounds, cow two is getting 26 pounds? Because like that's the only way that I could, unless I mean I don't understand.
No, so what happens?
Or you just like, hey, let everybody get the food at once.
Yeah, so there's feed bunks. So there's concrete bunks that run on the outside of the pen. So if I have, I'm just going to use simple math, okay? So if I have, I get a load of cattle in, so I get a trailer of cattle in. I make splits. Splits are basically me going in and saying, all right, if you're over 500 pounds, you go this direction. 4 to 450, you go this direction. Anything under 4, you go to this direction. We put them in pens that are getting this. We call them similar kind of cattle. Right. So similar frame size, similar weights, things like that. We try to make them
comparables.
more uniform groups. They all look alike. You basically, a load of cattle, you want it to look like you cloned each animal.
So like in real estate, we call that a comp.
Yep. See, there you go.
Yeah.
So then I might, pen one might have 5 of that load. It might have 20 head of the previous load. It might have 30 head from the load before that. So now I've got, what did I say? So that's 45 cattle in one pen. I, in the system, say I want to feed 25 pounds of feed to this pen, so 25 pounds per head per day. And if I have 2 feeding times, so AM, PM, it'll divide that up for me. So there's a target gain that I want to set, and then based off of the nutritional value of your ration, that's how you formulate that. So the system helps do that. So if I get a load of cattle in and I add 5 heads, so now there's 50 in there, you're my feed truck driver, it will automatically do the math for me. So, hey, plus 5 head, plus 25 pounds per head divided by 2 feedings. Now, on the screen, it will tell you, hey, stop at 180 pounds of corn. Stop at 2,200 pounds of silage. Stop at X, whatever that poundage is. It'll tell you what to feed. And then when you feed that feed, so when you actually go out and put it in the feed bunk, it does the same thing. It says, hey, your target was 3,500 pounds. You only fed 3,200 because maybe I undermixed the ration and I'm out of feed. I missed, 100, 200 pounds of feed. Now what the system does is it takes whatever it costs you to mix that ration, now it divides it up by how many, so say 5 pens got that ration. Now I go in and the system will calculate how much money I put out that day. So how there's 4 different loads of cattle or lots of cattle.
I understood money.
Yeah, there you go. There's 4 different lots of cattle or groups of cattle in that one pen. It will now divide financially up between those 4 groups depending on how many head are in that pen.
So it sounds like, just to boil it down, the software that you are selling and you work with is taking data that normally would live on a spreadsheet and take you a couple hours to kind of process and giving it back to you instantaneously. And it will tell you, so if I got a feed truck driver and he tries to manually change something, everything's manually, you can manually change anything just because shit happens, stuff breaks. So if I try to go in and sneakily try to change it underneath my boss's nose, it'll highlight it. It'll give me an analytical graph and see if we are actually gaining weight or if we went down somewhere. So you can, from a financial, you can look from an analytical and from a statistical standpoint of how productive your cattle are being, even if you're not there on farm every day. And then also, like, from, you could double check nobody's being nefarious. So, like, if you have just a delivery driver, if you're getting charged for 100%, you're going to get 100% because you can see it. Which, it was funny, the whole time you're talking, all I could think about was being like 8 years old and going with my grandparents and going to the silo and just like they would just fill the back of the truck up, like, pull the old 88 Chevy in the back and then it's like how far we've come to now. There's like you actually know how much you're getting. Yeah. Versus I'll just take a truck bed full.
Yep. And this is a user-friendly program, too. So that was our big thing, was making it pretty user-friendly, because a lot of historic systems out there are not as easily flexible. And so we can backtrack everything. So if I get a delivery of corn, but I don't get that sale ticket or that basically invoice until a week later, but I've already started feeding that corn, I can go back to the day it got delivered and change that price.
I think for me, the most interesting thing about all this is the technology. Like, you have the scales, you have I'm sure the cattle themselves are being tracked. You talked about Bluetooth, you talked about the software and tracking. And again, it's like bringing up Yellowstone again, like before watching Yellowstone, of course he has a helicopter. How else is he going to go across this ranch? Somebody I went to college with, their parents, their dad was a ranch realtor.
Oh, fun. Yeah.
And it blew my mind at the time that they had a helicopter. It was like, well, again, how else are you supposed to show somebody a ranch that they want to buy if you can't circle around and show it to them?
That's like in Australia, the western part of Australia. That's a lot of them don't have vehicles. They have helicopters, and that's how they go to and from, because it's out there. They go by hectares. So the amount of land that you have to have, like the acre per head, is insane. I don't even want to guess how much it was.
Is it because it's a little bit more barren?
Mm-hmm. Not as much forage. So they even round up cattle by like dirt bikes, four-wheelers, or helicopter. And there's a photographer out there that takes pictures of all these things. And I can't for the life of me remember his name, but is amazing images he captures from the air. But we'll have to, once you figure it out, we'll have to figure it out. Figure that out for you, yeah.
Going into the business side of what you do, because I'm assuming are you more of a consultant or more of a salesperson?
Yes. So my day-to-day job is sales. I do consultant work on the side, and do some other things on the side just because why not? And so, but day to day, I make sure that the program's a good fit first, and make sure that it would actually benefit this producer, and then
is that before you even meet them, or do you
both?
Do you do some like research?
Oh, for sure. So,
like before you call Bob, you're like stalking them a bit?
Yep. So if I can find them on social media, if it's not a word of mouth, if it's just a name that came across my desk, then I will figure out if they're on social media. If they are, I'll kind of give it a look at. I'll figure out what the name of their cattle company is. If they have a social media presence, and I look at that just to get an idea of who I'm dealing with. There's a book called The Beef Spotter, and it has not all. It has a lot of feedlots all in every state listed in that Beef Spotter. I think they have to pay to be a part of it. But anyway, it's a great tool if you're new to an area like me. And so what I'll do is I'll go in there, see if their operation is listed in that book. And if it's not, okay, well then you can use reverse yellow pages. And if I have a name, but I don't have any other information, I can actually pinpoint where they at, what their location is. Then I can go on to MapX, I think it's called. I can look up their land and see who owns it. So if I can figure out if it's leased or if it's an actual private ownership. I try to find out as much information about that person as I possibly can before I call them. Then when I call them, I want them to tell me. Oh, tell me a little bit about your operation. Oh, my daddy had it, and my daddy had it. So about third generation, and we just run some background. Okay, well, do you have a cow-calf operation on top of that? Well, yeah.
I didn't catch that.
Cow-calf.
What is that?
Breeding side.
Okay.
You have mama cows. And he's like, oh, yeah, we got about 300 mamas, and you do this and that. Okay, well, you part of a registered program? Well, yeah, we've got registered Angus, and kind of do a little bit here. Oh, my brain, I'm like, Angus. Oh, did you go to the R.A. Brown sale 2 weeks ago? I bought some bulls from him, and I really like them, and I hadn't needed to get anything more. I think I'm going to go next year. Well, that one bull that you had, then that conversation now opens up. And so
you use like a lead qualification type thing, and use that to get into the potential sales side of it.
Yeah. And if I know that they're a part of programs or different organizations, then you try to get them to talk, right? So you sit there and say, hey, I don't think I saw it. Did you go to the TSCRA this past year? No. My daddy died, and now I know there was a death in the family. Mm-hmm. I was like, well, that COVID deal. Well, it wasn't COVID. F that COVID thing. I don't believe in it. That dumbass just died of a heart attack. Then those are the kind of conversations. Now I know.
Rapport. And you also have rapport.
Rapport.
Thank you. So I was gonna say rapportal, and I'm like, that's not a word.
That's cooler.
But
it is, yeah.
See, and now I know he's a part of an organization.
Yeah.
I know he usually goes to convention, but now he doesn't. I know that his daddy died, so there's been a death in the family. I know probably politically he leans right because he said F COVID, right?
Right.
Then I know that he's a third generation, so he's probably having his kids take over at some point, and that's important to him. So now I have all this information that when I do see him in person or talk to him again, I've got things to talk about. But now I know more about his operation. So I'm sitting here thinking, he's got mama cows. I've got a program that's releasing next year that focuses on the genetics and things of mama cows. I wonder if he's a part of Texas Angus. Well, my roommate is the editor-in-chief of Texas Angus. Hey, I'm not going to say her name, but hey, do you know so-and-so? Yeah, I know so-and-so. He was this person's neighbor and this person's neighbor. You know, he did a lot of business with us this year. Well, there you go. Now I know he's actually a bigger player than what he sounded like from when I first called saying, hey, Mr. You know.
So from an economic standpoint, how valuable to your company / you personally is a client? Because it sounds like there's a tremendous amount of work and then cultivation of that person to get to a sale.
Yeah.
Like, do you need a sale a month? Do you need a sale a minute? Do you need a sale a year? Like what puts food on your table?
Yeah, it's a monthly quota. So it's a revenue based. So it doesn't matter if it's a hardware sale, so tags, plate reader, scale head, or if it's a subscription. I try to get at least 2 to 3 people on a month, mainly because I believe in the program enough to the point where I will tell someone if it's a good fit for them, like, dude, you need to get on this thing. And I'm not bullshitting you just to bullshit you. Like, if I was you, I would get on this.
But 2 to 3 deals.
Yeah, I mean, it depends. I mean, all right, so the way it breaks down is the subscription for our program is extremely inexpensive to the point where financially it does not make sense if they were still a startup.
Right.
And so...
I know that life.
Yeah, that's right. But since we're owned now by a bigger corporation, they have the financial means to put input costs into expanding our engineer team, expanding the sales team. So so a lot of my revenue actually comes from hardware sales. So like tags, scale heads. So I've got a guy right now that's thinking about getting on the program. If he does that, he's going to buy 4 scale heads. And then there's a subscription, and that would cover about 2/3 of my quota. Then I got another guy, would only be 1 scale head, but he'd get about 1,500, 2,000 tags. Well, that's my whole month of November right there. We're good. So that's how my income works. Me personally, I put that extra effort in because I want to have a relationship with every single one of my producers. I want to know who they are. I want to know their family background. I want to know them as a person, not a sale.
Now, do you, like, I have a horrible memory. Do you have, like, a CRM system that you track all this stuff? Like, what do you use? Is it Post-it notes? Or are you just super personable that you know everybody?
Yes to all.
Or is it an element of living in the country where you have to know everybody?
A little bit of everything. So I have ADHD, and it's hard for me to retain information sometimes, even if I know it's a super important conversation. My brain just sits there. I'm like, there's a yellow bug on this man's black truck, and I cannot get my mind off it. I'm looking at you, but I see that yellow bug. He just said something. I don't really know.
I just lost
focus right back
$1,000.
in. Yeah. And so, but I refuse to take medication. I think at this point it would hinder because there's certain conversations. It might be 5 minutes long, but I remember it for 5 years from now. I'm like, oh, yeah, Carl, we just sat there in the grocery at the bread aisle, and we just sat there and talked about pinto beans about 4 minutes. And then his wife, his wife's ex-sister's daughter went and got married and had 3 kids with her neighbor's son. Anyway, that type of mind trail I can track. So what I do is I carry a pocket steno. And what I'll do is when I meet somebody, I give them my card, I get their name.
What's a pocket steno?
It's a mini steno.
What's a steno?
It's a mini notebook. Okay.
Notebook.
Steno. Mini steno.
Notepad.
It's about notepad.
Notepad. Yeah.
This big.
See, we're speaking the same language.
There you go. And so you got to remind me of that because it's all I just. But I'll put that in my back pocket, or if I've got a jacket in my shirt pocket. And so see, there you go. Oh, smaller though. It's like basically there you go. See that one right there.
Yeah.
It's smaller than a pen. It's a little bit bigger than a Post-it note. But what I'll do is I realized I should have a corporate phone, a work phone, and a personal phone to separate business from my personal life. unless I really like that person and I think it's a good connection to have, then I'll give them my personal phone. But what I do, since that phone is technically owned by somebody else, and if I ever chose to leave, you can't take my phone, but you can take that work phone. So what I'll do is in that steno, I write their name, where they're from. I write all the business information I can possibly remember. But I always walk away with at least 3 to 5 personal details. And that is where I think a lot of my personal success has come from, because I'm old school and I think that there should be a lot more personal relationship into a sale, because you're giving them something they can actually use. I'm not trying to bamboozle you. I'm not trying to screw you over. And my boss and I actually had this conversation, and I said, I am not going to tell someone who I don't think should be on the program that they should be on the program. He's like, well, you're losing sales. I said, yeah, but you know what? I'm not a freaking liar. And you know what? The people I've turned away have actually gotten me more business than the people I've gotten on the program.
So one thing I would recommend from somebody you don't know, and it's okay, you get tell me go to hell, or
No, not at all.
oh yeah, great idea, never talk to me again. That's fine. If you don't have a backup of all the people you're making connections with,
Oh, yeah.
I would, even if, okay, fine. It costs $20, $50, $100 for $200, depending on what kind of software system you use for CRM. It is worth the monthly fee to have your own system, your own tracking.
It is.
Because people, no matter what you're building, no matter what you're selling, no matter what you're doing, the people are what matters.
It's a people business.
Well, everything's
Everything.
a people. Everything. Like, that's what Brian and I talk about in the Building the Business podcast we were talking about, where he's predominantly from software companies. But when you sell, when you exit, yes, you're selling the software, but you're really selling the people.
Yep.
You're selling the team, the process that you built. So if you're putting in all this time, you have to, because what if, like, your next venture is something completely different, but I'm assuming it still involves a hat and cattle and horses and such.
Yep.
So you're probably, whatever you're in is probably going to still work for those guys. And even if you have an NDA, whatever, I'm not a lawyer, so yeah, I'm not going to talk about anything like that,
Yeah.
but it's worthwhile. Data is everything.
It is. And I learned from my last job that no one's going to watch out for you better than yourself.
Oh, yeah.
And they tried to tap into my phone deal, and I legally had done enough research where I was like, you cannot take my phone. Now, do I call many of those people anymore? No, because I'm not in the same state and I don't really have any, but they call me.
You're talking about, like, previous work?
Previous work, a nutrition consultant. In fact, I had a person call me the other day and ask me about something. I was like, honey,
where are you from?
I'm from Central Texas, so
Okay.
in between Waco and Austin is where I'm originally from, north of Temple. And I worked in the Blue Ridge Mountains of Virginia as a nutrition consultant.
Because Texas is right to work state. So
Yeah.
I'm not a lawyer, but even if you have an NDA, you can
Nope,
shove that right up something.
It's beneficial to any person out there. Is beneficial to know the law and to know, like I said, how to gig or be gigged, how to win over that system. Because if you won't stand up for yourself and if you won't educate yourself enough to know, those corporations will take advantage of you every chance they can get. And so I protected myself, and they tried to come after me and stuck it to them. I was like, you're not going to do that. And they realized the amount of back wheeling that they did, backed right off.
So coming from somebody who recently had to get all his shit back from a previous employee, the amount of Googling I went in on, can I press charges? Can I do this? Most of the articles I came across when it came to getting your shit back was just pray.
Pray.
You know, just hope. Cross your fingers.
Peace be with you.
Right. So how I got my stuff back, I called the guy's parents. Called his mom.
Aw. Oh, mama came in.
I got my shit the next day.
I got my stuff the next day. Yeah, it's funny how that works.
Yeah. She's like, And then he was like, please stop. Don't call my mom again. Okay.
All right, well, don't take my stuff.
Did you hear him laughing?
Yeah.
Yeah, we had fun with that story. So I don't even know where I go from that. But so what are your goals when it comes to this industry? Like, is it are you doing the software because, hey, that's where you found a niche? Or is it because, hey, I'm a country girl and I want to do country things and this seems like a way to make money?
Yeah.
Is it a job or is it a career? That's what I'm trying to ask, I guess.
Both. I think I'm a big believer. It's not what you know, it's who you know.
Absolutely.
The what you know can only add on to things. Now, if you're a dumb fool, if you got a good last name, you will still get more traction than the person who is well educated but has no ties to any person. And I realized that extremely young, that life ain't fair. It's never going to be fair, and no one's going to hand anything to me. If you want it, you're going to have to go out there and do it. So all the research I get, the manager of our inside sales team was the one asking me on how I research people. And he's like, why do you, that is so much time. That is so much energy and effort. Why are you doing that? And I said, well, I'm doing it because, you know, even if I leave this company or if something ever happened and I don't agree with something with the direction it's going and I end up leaving, I have those connections and they know my background, they know my work ethic, and they know who I am. That the idea is if I ever do go off in another direction, that I don't need a logo on my shirt to get me somewhere.
Mm-hmm. What about training? Do you do training a lot?
Like training other people or people training me?
Like both. Or for yourself, self-improvement.
For myself, yes.
What do you do?
I read. I read a lot. I think the social media has a lot of good things, but you've got to, we were talking about this earlier with religion, you've got to be careful what you listen to because there's a lot of get-rich-quick schemes. There's a lot of, oh, well, you should do this in sales or you shouldn't do this. And I'm like, that would never, and I think, let me take that back. It's also dependent on what industry you're in because in my industry, a lot of those little tips and tricks will not work. Now, there's a lot of books out there that speak a lot of truth, like 48 Laws of Power.
You're talking about like sales techniques?
Sales techniques. Conversation techniques, how to remember things. I realize that mimicking people's behavior, you're angled, I'm angled, and now it's...
What is it called? NLP.
There you go. Sure.
You know what I'm talking about?
I mean, I don't know what the abbreviation was.
It's neuro-linguistic programming.
Okay, yes.
But you just described it with the angling, the lean in, the lean out, shadowing. That's what it is.
And especially with standoff, like, you have to understand the information that I have to get from these people, I might as well ask their social security. Actually, they would tell me the number of their social security number before they tell me how many cattle they're feeding.
Really?
Very private with that information. You never go up to somebody like, how many acres you have? It's just sensitive data. It's just...
is it sensitive data or is it a cultural thing?
Both, right? I don't know you.
Right.
Why would I tell you essentially how much money I have?
I get that because the thing is, like, if I'm, again, as a layman looking at the way you're dressed, you could be a multi-billionaire or you could be a stable hand. I don't know if stable hand's a real thing. I just said words. Yeah. I just threw words against a wall and see what happened.
You're spot on.
But pretty much everybody dresses the same in that culture.
Similarly, yeah.
You know, I think the only difference would be like who's got more expensive boots and who's got more expensive hats.
That's right. That's right. I don't know. There's some pretty wealthy individuals that dress very modestly, and it's like they say with the whole. I despise this human, but Bill Gates, and then. Me too.
I didn't talk to you.
But like Bill Gates, I think they talked about Elon and a few other just multi-million and billionaires that the clothes they choose to dress in are not the Gucci and the Versace, which I've never understood that to begin with, ever. In fact, I wanted to cry when I had to buy some new hardware that I didn't, it's for my horse. I use it, but I didn't want to pay that.
Try owning a media company.
Yeah,
I like the. It's an ongoing joke here because, we even on our Instagram we're like, "Hey, what's in the box?" Because there's at least something once a week, twice a week, once a day. Like the other day, we were like, "Hey, how much has Ryan spent at Amazon this year?" And somebody was
this week.
Somebody's like 20,000, 50,000.
Yeah.
I think somebody had said like 61,000, and they weren't even close.
Oh.
Because, I mean, everything in here is expensive.
Yeah, it is.
I mean, just this room, I mean, there's probably at least $150,000 in this room.
We got this cool little wall and all
That's the
sorts of
cheapest thing about this
Really?
room.
I thought it was nifty. That and the little geometric
That's a little bit more
triangle
expensive,
thing.
yeah.
I thought that was neat.
Yeah, but I mean...
So it shows what I know.
Yeah, it's fine, you know. But when it comes to the training aspect, like I think I'm really good at the interpersonal connections, like getting people to like me or I like them and having that relationship. But I'm not good at the sales. Like I'm not good at like getting your credit card.
Yeah.
Like whereas like Corey, like do you know who Grant Cardone is? So they're huge Grant Cardone fans. Like he didn't make me do anything, but so I pay Grant Cardone $100 a month just to have access to his training program. Then I haven't. I don't watch. I don't look at it. But when a big client says to do something, you do it just so, I have it. Have you looked at it?
Oh, yeah.
No.
You know, I've just been busy.
But they had a guest in earlier this morning, and they sold him on a product with me, and then they made him give me his credit card, and I ran it. I don't have that. I don't have that bug. I don't have, I mean, I have the drive. I work the 7 days a week, 10, 12-hour days. I have that. But the whole, give me your money.
Yeah.
It's hard.
Yeah. Luckily, I don't really have to do a lot of that up front. If they end up going with the program,
It's a good
they
old
have
boy.
to sign themselves up and then put their information in. And so only time we have an issue is if someone changes their credit card number and doesn't put it in the system. And at that point, we just lock them out. It's like,
right.
You don't get to feed your cattle.
So, but when we were in the other room, you were talking about how another way you get leads or market is go to these I'm going to call them events because I don't know what the right terminology is, but like, are we talking like rodeos?
Conventions.
Are we talking about conventions?
Yeah.
Okay.
A little bit of everything. So I go, the performance horse world is pretty seriously tied in with the cattle side of the world. And so like I go, I'll be at the NRHA this year. I'll be
What's that?
National Reining Cow Horse or National Reining Horse Association. So they're the people that do the big circles and the cute sliding stops with the dirt flying everywhere. Yeah. The futurity, so like the Super Bowl of it, is in Oklahoma City.
Okay.
Then the cutting horse. So this is what I worked in. They pull. That's what you saw at Yellowstone. You saw reined cow horse, so they were doing a little bit of everything, box work and down the fence. But then the cutting, so there's a herd of cattle, you pull them out. There you go, that's reining. Magnificent, amazing horses.
What'd you say the other one is?
Put NCHA. Yep.
N or M?
NCHA. You're good. That's it. So right there. There you go.
So I'm going to tell you my horse story.
Okay.
I've always been a big kid. I've been a big dude. Like, and to clarify, I used to be athletic big, but now I'm just fat big. But when I was a kid, I was just a fat kid. And I was in Boy Scouts, and you do the, hey, get on a horse and go around the lake or something.
Yeah.
I remember trying to step on the rein, not the reins, the stirrups. And and it was one of those moments that just sticks with you all your life.
The horse go.
And I was like, I'm good.
Nothing makes you feel better on the ego than that.
Yeah, but academically, I can look back and be like, okay, even if I was a fat kid compared to like a full-grown adult male is
He's
nothing.
probably just tired and sighing.
It was just like,
they've got personalities. They really do.
Yeah, that horse looked at me and said, no.
They've got personalities. I love working with them. They are just very intellectual, smart-ass little creatures. They really are.
Right.
Instigators. My mare's got the personality of, sometimes Satan, it feels like. But she's just a goofball.
Is it kind of like the relationship you'd have like with a good dog?
Yeah. If you learn how to read them, but they try. Like you've got your dogs that just kind of hang out, whatever. Those horses, those performance horses, they want that. They want to go out in the arena. You can tell some of them, they just kind of almost puff out their chest a little bit when they go into the arena underneath all those lights. They know what their job is, and they are addicted to it just as much as you are. And those are the fun ones. So,
have you seen Spirit?
I did, like the cartoon.
My gosh, yeah.
When I was...
You're looking up like he's up there.
I know. That's the speaker right there. I don't know why.
Yeah.
When I was 5 or 6, I think I had a spirit themed birthday party, and I even had little spirit horses on the cake. I was so cool.
Yeah, mine was more American Tail.
I remember that one too.
Everybody's like, Five Goes West.
Dragon
Like,
Tail.
no, American Tail. Five Goes West was that
That's
trash
so
they did years
funny.
later. Somewhere
so
out there.
funny.
That's what I'm talking about.
Spirit's so sad.
It is sad. I can see your face now.
Yeah.
Hi.
It's
There
a
we
little
go.
better than just floating in the sky.
No, it's funny though. I've noticed this with a lot of these anime production companies, Disney. They are running out of creative things to produce, so they are now recreating all of the
Right.
classics. And I've noticed that the Spirit ones, I saw like a new animated version of him, and I'm like, that is not what he looked like. That is not what he looked like. Not what he
Sorry,
looked
I
like.
hijacked the convo, Ryan.
Oh, you're fine.
I'm sure we could find some kind of businessy, entrepreneur, financial, marketing from Spirit, the cartoon.
Very smart.
Well, I don't know.
I mean, I guess it keeps people, like all the Disney movies that they've
Yeah.
been redoing and making into like actual movie deals. You have to admit it.
Well,
The Mulan and the whole whatever deal.
so when they make I'm going to speak in vague memories because I don't know if it's true, but nobody fact checks anything anyway, so we're fine. When they make those big ass movies like the Marvel movies, even though they make billions of dollars, they don't even care about that money because it's all about the merchandising.
Oh,
It's all about the show.
sense.
It's all about the rides, the T-shirts, the
Memorabilia.
the memorabilia,
Toys.
the toys.
Yeah, toys.
All of that stuff. So like they could literally lose money on a movie and still make
Perfectly fine.
tons of money.
It's there's a lot of stuff with Hollywood I disagree with, and it's the way they make money off those deals is one of them, and the message that they send out in those movies, most of them are just trash anyways. But
Yeah. So when it comes to the cattle world, like, because we talked about how people, you don't know if they're small, they're big, they're private. And when you said something, you said you specialize in that 15 to 2,500 head of cattle. Like, what
Mostly.
does that mean financially? Like, if somebody was going to liquidate that, what does that look like? And I know it changed with the market, but
changed with the market. It
because
changed.
I have zero gauge.
Yeah, so most cattle producers are in debt of some kind, whether they're a massive operation or
Right.
they're a smaller guy. There's a lot that goes. It depends on how many assets they have on that property, sellable assets. So you've got how many tractors you have, how many feed trucks you have, how many pens you have, how many feed bunks, what the condition of those feed bunks in, commodity barn, is it covered? Or do you have any bays? Are they just open? Do you have scales? Do you have load truck chutes? Do you have a load truck scale? There is so much money.
Just the stuff, yeah.
Yeah, upright silos, vertical mixers. Do you have other management tracking systems? That there's one company out there that does a really good job of tracking feed. But it's $20,000-$30,000 to install, and that's kind of on the low end. And so, do you have that? If you already have that installed, well, you can charge more. So, in it, right now, the issue: does the place have access to water? That's the big kicker, because a lot of these guys are starting to have to move and lease out, or move their cattle or sell their cattle, not because they can't afford to feed them, but because they can't find water and it's too expensive, and it's just honestly logistically a nightmare to truck in water.
Right.
That's that. If you have water on your property and you have all that other stuff, you're golden.
So why would somebody buy property without water?
Why would they?
So you're like, well, they deserve, they're an idiot type of thing.
No, they wouldn't buy it.
Right. So all
Unless
these people
you
are
are
going
in
out of
like
business, so.
land real estate where, all right, so there's this guy out in Australia. His name is Neil Watson, and I learned a lot from him just by watching him. During their 10-year drought, there was more forage on this table than they had out there. It was insane. People were committing suicide to get insurance money. I mean, it was awful. What he did is these places started going up for sale. Well, what he did is if he could afford it, he would buy it up. When that rain came, and it came, that place looked like The Sound of Music. Beautiful, lush, green forage. All the stock tanks got replenished. I mean, and he made a freaking killing off that. Freaking killing.
Because he sold?
Because he sold it. He bought it and he waited for rain. Once that rain came, then he goes, here's a price tag. And he more than went there's one property. He didn't quadruple. He went 6 times more selling it than what he bought it for. And that man made that was a multi-million-dollar piece of property. He bought it for thousands. I don't know, like a couple $100,000 or something like that. And all he did was sit there and wait on it. And the rain will come again. It's just a matter of when, how much, and how long is it going to take. So if you're selling out places.
So how does rain, because I understand how rain affects a lot, but how does it affect you personally in your business?
It doesn't affect me unless people get out of the cattle business directly.
Right.
Now, I hurt along with them, but and I empathize a lot with them, but I don't charge for feed. I'm out of the feed business. I help you track it. I don't sell you it anymore, which is a great thing for me because you're going to track your feed a lot more closely when it's 3 times the price than it used to be, right? And so as long as a person doesn't go out of business or sell all the cattle and close its doors, it doesn't directly affect me financially compared to someone else that's in the feed industry. Like if I was here last year in the same job last year, I would be hurting.
How long have you been doing what you're doing?
With this company since this year.
But in the industry itself.
Oh gosh, long time since I was a kid. Yeah.
I don't know what that means.
10, 15 years, something like that.
Okay.
I mean, obviously I was a kid and I wasn't making business decisions, but I was around it, learning, picking up things on it.
Because again, it's like when you talk to somebody from a different industry, like somebody watching this could be like, she doesn't know what the fuck she's talking about. But like somebody like me, I'm like, I have no clue because it's all new.
Yeah.
So
it's a whole new language.
So it sounds like you're extremely knowledgeable about the industry. That being said,
that's good.
That may just be from a complete layman YouTube, Instagram, TikTok world. You know,
and I'm not this. You know, I'm
not putting on you.
No. Then there's people out there that are absolute geniuses. I love listening to them talk, and one day I hope to be half as knowledgeable as they are.
It's experience.
It is. But for as young as I am, I've worked for plenty of people. I've traveled all over the country, all over the world. I would love to continue that because I think you get a better appreciation for what's going on here when you understand what's going on other places and then how to incorporate what they're doing maybe back at home too.
Well, circle, that's the whole reason of this conversation.
Yeah, absolutely.
You
absolutely.
And one thing that was funny because like I was just having this conversation yesterday about like lawyers, like which lawyer should you get? Should you get that 55-year-old grungy guy or that 28-year-old fresh out of school?
Yeah.
It's like that 55-year-old who has no personality, they probably know a thing or two times 10 more than that 28-year-old.
And that's one of the mountains I have to overcome as a salesperson in this industry is...
Yeah, what's competition like? We haven't even talked about that.
Well, I mean... it's not even really competition for me. It's because we're one of the only people or companies that focuses on the smaller guys. And I have to constantly remind those other companies when I meet their reps, I'm like, you are targeting bigger operations. I'm on the smaller end. We don't even have the same clientele at all.
Do you
And
do you get their cards and you give them your card and say, hey, if
yeah.
you got a small guy, give me and I'll give you my big guy?
Yeah, I mean, but the problem is then if a small guy buys their program, that they're like, okay, cool, I made a sale. They can go. If a small
they
guy
can go down, but you not necessarily can go up.
But they've got great programs, and they track. And I've got a lot of people that have their programs and my program, because we are a lot more user friendly and flexible and mobile, and we track certain things maybe better or at all compared to what they track, and vice versa. They have parts of the program that we don't track, and so there's some guys that want that other competitors' information, but also wants our information. So it's up to them. It's all, again, situational. But no, for me, it's just making sure producers understand that I'm not just some graduate from college that learned about beef cattle in a classroom. I've been out there. I've day worked. I've worked cattle till 3 a.m. I've gotten up and worked cattle at 3 a.m. I've worked horses, been in the industry, stockyards, cow, calf, feedlots, you name it, been there. Maybe not 15, 20 years in each place like some other people have, but I've been involved enough, and I thought that was super important in college. I knew I was going to be at the back of the pack compared to everybody else, whether it's last name recognition, or whether it's experience. So I knew that I had to do I had 4 jobs throughout my entire college career, three to 4 jobs at all time, plus working. So the really dumb thing I did, I had 21 hours of school, credit hours, and had 4 jobs, and was a vice president of a national organization and president of like a couple other things, because I'm an idiot and I couldn't say no. Because I saw the opportunity, I was like, I could learn. I can't turn this opportunity down. Well, there is such a thing as going too much. And so what I did is I prioritized. There's a saying that I love. It says, don't let schooling get in the way of your education. I learned more on the back of a horse and a saddle on these operations than I did in the classroom.
The only thing my college degree has ever done for me is when I worked overseas in Dubai, and the visa I got, it would say manager.
You were there for a few years too, right?
I was only there for a year and a half.
Oh, okay.
But my supervisor, who didn't have a degree, his visa just said employee.
Makes you feel good, doesn't it?
It doesn't mean anything. I mean, he still made more money than I did.
I think it depends on what major you get. So I was in animal science, and there's a lot of technology, a lot of information that I actually reference to this day. That and this gold ring, and in fact, next week I'm going to College Station to go help with.
You said I don't understand the gold ring reference.
A&M.
Got it.
A&M ring. I'm actually going back to College Station to help a professor do one of his agri-food sales class. And so I still talk to them frequently. A lot of the faculty, still very close with them. So for me personally, but then again, I was on the ag side of campus. That was like a university within a university.
That, I don't know if you're doing this on purpose, but that's, and in my head, immediately see an amazing lead funnel there. And you can smile, or you could just tell me I'm on the right path, or you could tell me you even thought about this, but you probably have. Is if you stay connected with the college, and then all these people, once they make money, then they start their alumni and they throw money at it, and then you're still associated, then they'll, hey, you should meet Tom over here. You should meet Bob over there. You should meet Susan over there.
Well, that's
is that where your thinking was?
Always. Again, it's not what you know, it's who you know.
Yeah.
And I love talking with people. I love talking to people, whether it's like an educational demonstration, presentation thing. Always have loved it. I don't mind talking in front of people. I'm more than comfortable with it. 4-H was a big credit to them for teaching me that. But we actually give the company PLA, Performance Livestock Analytics, gives this performance beef program to universities for free. because the way we look at it is not only will
They
it
get used to it. Yeah.
helps the university save money and track things, but they're the ones raising, or not really raising, but they're the ones influencing the next generation of producers
Or their parents.
So yeah, and it's really cool. I love meeting kids or students, young adults, not kids.
Well,
But-
you know, it's funny because like a second ago you brought up the whole school versus experience, or I forgot the expression, but like where I come from, like this real estate investing world, where because real estate is so focused on the color green, like we don't care if you're white, you're black, you're male, you're female, you're short, you're tall, you're gay, you're straight. Can I
Yeah.
make money with you?
Yep.
I don't even have to like you. You know, that's how savage real estate is because I can hate your guts, but if we can make money together, let's
Yeah.
find a way to make that
Pretty
happen.
ruthless, yeah.
Well, I mean, it's not that it's ruthless. It's just it's all about the money.
Yeah.
But because of that, I would say you learn to not judge books by covers.
Correct.
So, like, you know, it's funny because, like, earlier this afternoon, you were talking about how going to, like, events and, like, maybe an older guy just look at you like, who's, I forgot what you would mention something about, like, you sometimes you get, like, whose daughter are you? Or,
Yeah.
or like, just assuming you know nothing because you're a female or something. Where, like, I think that's the benefit of where I come from in the industry I come from is like I have zero. I'm just like, okay,
Yeah.
cool. I mean, she's got a hat, so she clearly knows what she's talking about. You know, but
Yeah.
but I also I say that, but also Sohill, what's my favorite expression?
Everyone's full of shit.
Everyone you meet is full of shit.
Yeah. True.
So even though I have, but that's also because the guru space.
Yeah.
Because in the real estate guru space, people like they flip 3 houses and then they want to sell a program for millions of dollars.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
You know?
Now, and the thing about the ag community is we are a very small world. It does, if you better watch your P's and Q's, because if you do
Can you turn the mic a little bit?
Hello.
There we go.
Sorry. The agriculture community, we're a really small world, and you have to be careful of, like, just be a decent human being, because as soon as you wrong someone and it gets out, your name, you can have 5 generations of reputation and it will tank like that.
So speaking about name, so you brought it up several times, and you even brought it up in the green room about last name. The last name is so important, and like
Yeah.
if you don't have a last name, then you have to develop a last name.
You have to work hard for it.
Can you go into that a bit?
Yeah.
Because it sounded like there's a little bit of, and I may be way off base, but it's like I'd be jealous that I'm not a Gates or a Jobs or a Musk or what. I would love to be born into a shit ton of money.
Wouldn't that be nice?
Hell yeah. But it sounded like the way you said it, and I may be projecting, but it sounded like maybe there's a little of animosity because if you come from, if the world that you're in is so relationship based and so family based, it's like if you're always fighting to get into the club, is that kind of?
It's hard. Once you're fighting your way to get in, that's the hardest part. Once you're in, then you can go ahead and, I wouldn't say take your foot off the gas pedal, because I don't think you ever should. But, you know, there's pros and cons to that as well. So, yeah, someone with a last name that their family is super well known and they might get all the opportunities. Well, guess what? You just learned that you have to fight harder. Yeah, sure, they might get the business deal before you, or that you might get the respect before you do. All right, fine. So that's the thing, is I love the competition within myself, and I think that's why I like sales. I'm always been a competitive person. I think that's why I like CrossFit so much, is like I'm trying to beat that clock. With that being said, though, if something happens with that family, or if there's maybe someone did screw the pooch and then goofed up and did something they weren't supposed to, now that last name is tainted. So I have the unique opportunity to make a name for myself. I have the unique opportunity that Emma started that heritage. She's the one that established the whole family name, or she went in and my goal is to walk the halls and know everybody's name at these conventions. Not necessarily to sell them on something, but because I respect them and they respect me. I respect their experience and education and the amount of knowledge that's in their head. And then they respect me for my work ethic. Because one thing, you can say a lot of things about me and a lot about other people, but one thing you can't say about me is that it was handed to me, and it sure as hell was not. Because there's been times where I'm working till 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning. There is no 9 to 5. There is no 8 to 5. It is, if you want it, and if you want it bad enough, if you're a young person, use the time you have on your side. Use it, not only from a financial standpoint, like stock markets and then compounding interest. That's a whole nother conversation. But use the time you have on your side and work your ass off. And I promise you, if you are relentless and if you are disciplined enough, it eventually will come back to you. And I'm waiting for it to come back. But you know what? I think I'm doing all right considering, but I am just waiting for down that road that one day. It's the one thing I heard about, I think it was TikTok, is the one more. One rep more, one call more, one sale more, just one more minute more, one more mile, one more farm gate call, one more lunch. And man, if you just keep doing that, you will be unstoppable. You might just have to work a little harder for it.
So I'm going to make a prediction, and we kind of talked about it in there, but I'm going to put it on video so I can
put my beer down for that. Okay.
What's that?
I was going to put my beer down for that.
But so one of the reasons I invited you in to do this whirlwind long ass day of content.
It's been fun.
This is your third podcast in one sitting. Boom, boom, boom. So I see you on TikTok, and right now, how many followers do you have?
3,100, I think. Not very much. Yeah.
Right. But
it's more than I got on my Instagram. I've had that a hell of a lot longer, so here we go.
But I look at your TikTok and I look at the content you're doing, and I'm like, the content you're doing, the personality you're showing, the expertise you're showing, like the vibe you're showing, like there's a uniqueness there, there's a knowledge there, and there's an authenticity there that when I look at that, I almost, I'm not a stock trader, but I see like a undervalued stock where, hey, your true value should be, 300,000 followers or something like that. So like, I'm like, holy shit. In a year's time, we probably couldn't get her in for a podcast.
I would always remember y'all.
Oh, well, now, because hey, come in and do this podcast when, no one knows you type of thing. I look at you and I'm going, okay, if she stays consistent with what she's doing and keeps improving and keeps doing, I think in 6 months to a year, you're going to go viral, you're going to be blown up. And then, because we did this now, we'll have that relationship and maybe we could ride those coattails.
There you go.
That's the whole reason.
There you go.
Riding coattails. But
strategic.
What's that?
Strategic.
Fuck yeah. But for you specifically, now that I've got my motivations and my altruism out of the way, is if you get that following, you get that branding, and you grow. Hopefully, if you're her employer right now, just pause.
Corey.
Yeah, Corey, pause the video. I think you'll be in a hell of a lot better position for future negotiations for contracts. I think you could probably even get out of sales altogether and be more of a brand ambassador, be more of an affiliate, where it's like, hey, you go to these conventions because everybody wants to know you and everybody thinks they know you because you're on TikTok. And then all of a sudden, instead of giving, do you have a commission right now, or is it salary or?
Yeah, so there's a base pay, and then just at every quarter, if you meet quota, there's a commission. But then at the end of the year, if whatever over quota after the whole year, then you get a commission check for up to a certain amount. So
earlier you said something that I giggled at just in my head, because you're like, the software side is really not that big deal. It's the other side.
Hardware.
But the software is what's scalable. Like, because you could sell a whole lot more software than you can ever sell a tractor.
Well, and it's reoccurring revenue.
Right.
So it's a monthly deal. So the hardware is a one-time sale, and then the subscription would be a reoccurring deal. So yeah.
So where I'm getting with this is I see you getting to a point where you don't work for anybody and all you're doing is doing content for this field, content for this culture, content for these people.
Yeah.
And then you have all these different affiliates for different things. And now, instead of getting a 10% affiliate, you can negotiate to get a 50% affiliate, and you're making $50, $100, $200, $300,000 a month.
And it's a passion of mine, agriculture advocacy. It's always
Not to
been
bring
a
all that
passion.
money, but
No, I mean, that would be nice. And the goal, that's why I'm busting my ass as much as I am now, is so that way down the road I don't have to work for somebody else. I can work for myself. I'm always going to be a workaholic, but
Right.
I don't want to have to answer to somebody at the end of the day.
You know what I learned just 2 weeks ago from Brian on Building a Business podcast? Because I was bringing up, like, because you get told and you get sold this bill of goods of you got to find that work-life balance. And he's like, but you have it. You like working. Then fucking, he didn't say fuck. I say it. But he was like, just work.
Yeah.
Like, if you work 100% of the time, that's your balance.
Yeah.
That's your work-life balance. But too often we hear this, oh, we got to do our 8 to 10 hours, and then we have to have our family, You have to have that balance. It's like...
And it's different, I think. Like, I don't have kids. I'm not married. So it's a different thing for me. I don't have any responsibilities outside of my 2 dogs, which I feel like are children.
I'm also in startup phase.
Right. And so, and it is a lot of work up front from a startup point. And so, but that's one of those things that I love working. My clients, a lot of my customers, eventually get my personal Snapchat, and they'll Snapchat me a question or a problem, and then, or like they don't understand how to do something, and I'm like, hey, that wire, it came unplugged. Plug that. Yeah, there you go. We're cool. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm an idiot. Well, you said it, not me. But no, I'm kidding. Like, it's really not that big of a deal. Like, I see it all the time. And so my producers are super smart people, major respect for them. But I go out there and process cattle with them or set them up. That's not work to me. I'll show up with a 6-pack, 12-pack, 24-pack, and we just sit there and have one hell of a time.
Yeah.
Can't say anything. But, no. No. I'm saying he's a beer drinker.
Oh, okay.
He's a beer drinker.
Yeah.
He's about to be a daddy, so you might have to cut back on that. But
I think the overall point to the content game for what I was trying to what I see for you is, because I do events and because I do media, whatever.
Yeah.
One of the struggles is always the diversity thing. Is always inclusion. How do you get more women involved? How do you get more anybody involved? So, and my point to that is because there's a woman that I work with in a crypto world, and she's really good on camera, and she's still fairly new in the crypto world. And I tell her, I say, hey, if you keep this pace and keep absorbing this information and keep improving on camera, in 6 months to a year, I could totally see you being on like CNBC as a correspondent for crypto, for Bitcoin. Because everyone's always looking to, have that diversity.
Politically correct.
So
and then inclusion and that diversity has been like a huge thing.
But
recently.
it goes back to that gig or be gig. If they're going to play this stupid game,
I'll play
fucking jump on it and make profit from it.
Well, that's the other thing is sometimes you can play the dumb blonde. Like if you're all right, so if you've got a last name, if you don't play it, you're being a freaking idiot.
Yeah.
I happen to be a blonde, tall female.
That CrossFits.
That does, yes. And rides and does a bunch of other stuff. And so that's the thing is I can utilize that. If someone thinks I'm dumb and blonde and it fits that, I'm like, oh, I'm sorry. I didn't know about that. Tell me more.
Right.
Oh, no, I never heard about that. Yes, I have. What are your opinions on this? And then they become the expert, and they're like, I'm teaching this girl something. I'm like, oh, yeah, you are. Sometimes that works. Sometimes that is the move.
Speaking of ruining last names.
Yes.
Who in the history of Texas A&M is the stupidest person you can think of?
You know exactly who I'm going to say.
Who?
Johnny Manziel.
Yes, I agree.
Johnny, you let me down, honey.
That idiot Like, because here's my thought process on that. Only because you're an A&M gal.
It's an open target.
If he would have just stayed one more season, probably would have won a national championship. He could have flamed out in the NFL, and he could have had like car dealership after car dealership after car dealership in College Station. He would be treated like a god.
Yeah.
But instead, he was an idiot.
I think that's the one thing too is
ego kills.
Ego kills, and I always said I heard this from somebody, so I'm not. This is not me being all philosophical. I stole this, but I'm the smartest person in the room, I am in the wrong room.
Absolutely.
And I don't ever assume. This is one thing. I actually was running for an office for a student organization, and I could tell towards the end people were starting to get tired. And this was a equine focused group. And I went on there and I said, hey, my name's so-and-so. I'm from A&M, blah, blah, blah. I said, I don't care. I got real close to the mic. I said, I don't care who you are in this industry. You will never know everything there is to know about this industry. Like, everybody kind of sat up a little bit, got their attention. And I was like, think about it. Sure, you might be the expert at your school. You might be the expert in your county. But I highly doubt you're the expert in your state. If you are, I highly doubt you're the top expert in the nation. If you are, there is no way that you know more than everybody else in the world combined. There's absolutely no way. So for you to walk around and act like you know everything, you're going to lose a lot of respect from people, and people eventually, it's just like you said with lawyers sometimes. They might know a lot, but if they're complete assholes, I might go with the guy with less experience, or I might go with the guy, well, depends on what you're getting a lawyer for, I guess, but I might go with the guy that actually cares and has it. It's like doctors. I hear this all the time with doctors. Man, he wouldn't even look at me. He wouldn't even talk to me. He just said, nope, yep, nope, this, and then left. Versus my orthopedic surgeon looked at me. He goes, okay, so what happened? What are your goals in life? How's school? How is rehab going? How is this going? Okay, well, how's your daddy doing? Is he okay? Is your brother okay? Oh, that's good. I mean, there you go.
I think I'm going to butcher the stat so somebody else can fact check this. But I think it's like if doctors spent 3 to 8 more minutes per person, their malpractice percentage goes astronomically lower.
Yep. And
because people don't want to sue people they like.
No, I got misdiagnosed with a pretty serious illness back in college, and man, if they had just taken an extra second, or at least talked to me a little bit more, I don't think that would have happened. But it was a pretty big deal where my basically my life, I was like, all right, I'm going to be dead in a few months. This is super fun. And so, which put a new perspective on life. But because of that, I see it 100%. And even my personal doctor for when I've had 2 surgeries, he wouldn't see me when I tried to come back. And I was like, hey, like, I don't think this is right. And he wouldn't see me. Then I went to some specialist. He's like, oh, yeah, your bone graft tunnel's 27 degree off. Your leg's probably going to give out. You want to do surgery an hour later? Later, sir. I will see you when... And here I am 5 years later. I was supposed to have blown it out 3 years ago. We're still rocking and rolling. Doing more athletic stuff than I've ever done in my life beforehand. And so it... taking the time to get just, again, going back to that sales thing, I tried explaining this to a newer salesperson in our company. She was like, hey, I'm struggling with this. And I said, honestly, I call it the Andy Griffith sales method. Just caring about somebody will get you a lot farther, or at least you understand them more than without. I
didn't want to cut you off.
No.
Yeah. When it comes to like other entrepreneurs, when it comes to other practices, other trades, what skills do you think is the most synergistic that kind of goes around everything? I think you touched on it just then, but I'd like to see if your opinion changes.
No, definitely getting to know who you're talking to. even if you are in medical sales and you have to talk to a doctor, get to know the secretary. If you are having to go talk to an education platform, get to know the person that's answering the calls, even the students that are answering, like the student workers, things like that. Get to know them, because honestly, they're probably the mule that's pulling the plow more so than the person who's technically the decision maker. But when you leave, they might call let's say her name's Susan. We'll call Susan the secretary in. Susan, I owe that Emma girl, or she might bring it up. She's like, well, hey, Emma came by, or so-and-so came by. We should probably get an answer to them on that. What do you think? Now, you got to be careful, because nowadays we had this big, huge training on it about making sure that you're being appropriate, like with gifts and things like that, and you're not influencing and persuading. It's a corporate deal. But all right, so one of my guys, he's a medical distribution company, or owns a medical distribution center. And so the previous person was giving a bunch of leads to. Well, when I came along, he's like, she never followed up on those people, and I never heard anything back from her. So I just stopped, and there's nothing in it for me, so I'm not helping anymore. And he helped me a little bit at first, but then kind of went cold. And so I just, from the first time meeting him, looked over, saw on his office table, he had a picture of him and his family. I was like, oh, tell me about your kids. He goes, well, my daughter's birthday is coming up. So when his daughter, I didn't know what day in March it was, but I mailed him what I thought might be the correct size, handwritten note, like saying, hey, I do appreciate the people that you've put me in touch to. I really appreciate your support of the business, XYZ, that personal touch. He called me. He's like, did not expect that, and then got invited to their golf tournament and met a snot ton more people.
That's great.
One other lady, she is a customer of ours, and I was trying to get to know her, just her in operation. She's like, yeah, you can come out, but my husband's brother just died, so probably just give us a few weeks. Immediately figured out what florist they were, then called the florist, and then figured out what church they went to and what the address of the church to and what day the service was. So then I got the florist to make an arrangement to send to the church a couple hours before the service, when they'd be setting up and stuff, saying it's from us. And she called me crying. She's like, I was not expecting that. It was so nice of you. Not because it's a sales move, but because I wanted her to know I genuinely care. You doing those, and if you're trying to do it just for the sale, I honestly feel people will see through that, especially down the road. Time tends to peel back a lot of masks that people try to put on. But if you genuinely care about who you're selling to or what your product is and the people that you're talking with, I think that honestly trumps a lot of things. And then just figuring out who the players are in the industry.
Yeah, I think the follow-up with any industry is huge. And then also that human touch. Because that's one thing that we do here is every single person that, like you, will get a handwritten card in the mail saying, hey, thanks for coming in.
Yep.
I mean, it's not much, but it's like, it's better than a text. It's better than an email.
Because no one does it anymore.
No one does that. No.
There's that sales class I was telling about I was going to help with next week. I've done one before. I did one in the spring. And I told them, I said, one of the biggest things you can do is write a handwritten thank you card. Like, I've been working on all of my customers. I've been working on it since June, writing a hand-lettered Merry Christmas card. And they'll all go in the mail at the same time, but I figured might as well do 5 or 10 here and there versus trying to do I don't even know how many there are to do. When
I used to do real estate, like after looking at a house, literally just before you lift the house, write a quick note, thank you card, stick it in, put a stamp, put it in the mailbox. It's not that hard. Not their mailbox, somebody else's mailbox.
Yeah.
That way, not somebody else. Drop it in the mail when you get back to the office. That way you did it. You knocked out. And I think it's those little touches like. And again, I don't think it's a sales. And I mean, it is a sales thing, but it's a relationship thing. Everything's about relationships.
Yeah, and just being genuine. It's one of those things. There's so many fake people out there. There's so many I want to be this or I want to be that. If you're just honest, humble, authentic, exactly, man, it will get you a lot farther. It might take a second, but it will get you a lot farther than you think it will.
I feel like I'm pretty authentic. I have to.
I don't know. I'm just messing with you. No, I'm just messing with you.
I have to be less humble because I'm so humble to the point of like self-deprecation.
Yeah, that's the only thing. That's the opposite side. That's the other extreme.
Yeah, so I need to be like, yo, I have my own company.
How you talk about yourself to yourself, it matters a lot because growing up, there was this one girl I grew up with, and I thought we were buds, right? I thought we were friends, and I was thinner than I am now, but because I was taller, I wore bigger size clothing, right? And, man, I was taught by kids growing up that I was dumb, and I was a dumb blonde, and I was fat, and I was this, and I was that. And I started talking to myself that way. I was like, well, damn, Emma, if you just hadn't fucked that up, you dumbass.
So you okay?
Can't.
Did you fall?
Yeah.
It's okay. Okay, Emma, you dumbass. Go ahead.
Yes, exactly. So I told myself, I realized when I had this revelation that, man, that is so much more damaging, even when I don't think it. But I was telling myself that, and especially, like, I had this whole revelation last year of I needed to reprioritize myself and get my training back on the right tracks because I was doing really well in business. I was executing, I was selling, I was doing amazing things for the company, but none of it was for me. And I was just emotionally, spiritually, and physically just trashed. And so
I can relate.
Yeah, startup, with a roller coaster.
Yeah.
And so I realized that, you know what, when we moved back to Texas, got into Lubbock, I'm going to prioritize myself first. I'm going to prioritize my spiritual health, my physical health, then my mental health, then my business. Business comes last because if you can't get yourself on the right track, you're not going to be fully able to commit to as much as you could to your business, whether you're an entrepreneur or you're working for somebody else. You're going to be distracted or you're not going to be happy and you're going to be miserable. And so I realized that one of the things, you can't keep talking to yourself that way. God doesn't think that way about you. Why would you talk about yourself that way? Because if you're being negative to yourself, you're being negative. And then you're going to be a lot more likely to think negatively about somebody else. And that's not what God tells you to do.
Well, I'm always surprised. Not always. Like, because on paper, I have $1 million company.
Mm-hmm.
That's not hyperbole. That's true. Mm-hmm. I sold 10% for $100,000.
There you go.
That's $1 million company.
Mm-hmm.
My payroll is, I don't know, $35,000 a month. And it's like, part of me, I'm like, if I really think about it, I'm like, holy shit, how the F, how did I get here? How did I get here? Because again, I don't come from money. My parents still work. They're old as shit, and they need to retire. But I haven't gotten myself into a place where I can take care of them yet.
Yeah.
But it's like every day I'm like, holy crap! I think I'm doing it, but I'm too busy like growing that I haven't done anything for myself.
Yeah.
Like I make less money than one of my VAs.
Yeah.
Virtual assistant. So it's like. That means I barely make enough money to make the car payment.
Bills. Yep. I feel that.
And I'm not complaining. It's just is what it is. But
it's investing into yourself, though, and that will go so much farther.
I get to meet cool people.
That's right.
Yeah.
Well, and especially now because one of the big topics of conversation is inflation and the ways things are priced, and I doubt that we will ever see prices like we saw 2 years ago. They might come down again, but they're never going to be like they once was. And reinvesting into yourself now will only be even more helpful to you down the road. So you're doing the right thing by prioritizing what you can do now versus doing extravagant or lavish. That's where people like all those NFL players, that's why they get broke after they retire from football. It's because they're too busy out buying name brand clothing and unnecessary cars and things like just being trash with it when they could have been doing other things to set themselves up for down the road.
Yes, and they get caught in this trap of their second, third cousin who they've never met comes out of the woodwork, and they feel like it's their responsibility to lift them up.
Yeah,
and it's tragic, but it is what it is. I don't want to keep your. Well, I do. I would love to keep you here all night, but I think Sohail's like.
Sohail's like, I want to go home and get this blonde lady out of here.
I've been in this control room since 9:30. I've been in this control room for what is it?
Have you really?
For about 11 hours straight.
Oh, bless your heart.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
He's
have a drink on me.
He'll take tomorrow.
He goes, I'm fine. Just leave me alone.
But I do want to say thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
I hope it was an enjoyable experience.
Oh my gosh, loved it. Hope to do it again.
I'm gonna try something. I haven't done this yet.
Okay.
Can I end this on an inappropriate joke?
Absolutely.
Okay.
You heard me slinging semen earlier, so there's no.
I didn't hear it.
We hadn't had a joke in here in a bit,
okay.
so.
All right. Well, we haven't had a joke at all.
I know, that's what I'm saying.
I've been trying to be serious. All right.
Next time.
What's green and smells like pork?
What?
Kermit's finger.
Yeah, that is true. I've heard that one before. Sorry to burst your bubble, but that one is good.
Well, shit. Well,
do better next time.
Damn.
I hear a lot of jokes. You have to understand that.
I don't hear any jokes.
I really wish my soundboard was working.
I'll do it for you. As far as like, random people in the street watching this, like I would say most people watch this are entrepreneur types or real estate types or just my mom. I don't know. My mom doesn't watch my content. I know. So tragic.
We should do is get for Christmas, get a whole DVD and it's all of your videos
DVD?
on there. A DVD.
How old are you?
Well, hey now, that's not nice. I still have a cassette player. And a Rolodex.
That's awesome.
Thank you.
Why?
I think so too.
Why? What?
I was interviewing for this company. It's a technology company. There's a Rolodex in the background.
Time out.
Yes.
How old are you, if you don't mind me asking?
I'm 25.
How the F do you know what a Rolodex is?
Because I'm old school. I had a rotary phone, box TV, whole 9 yards.
I think that's the coolest thing I've heard all day.
There you go.
Because I say references every once in a while, and in my head I'm like,
yeah.
Because I mean, Sohail's a little bit older, but like Margot and Naomi, they're
you say
like
dial-up internet, they're like, what's that? Or AOL or AOL chat, things like that.
Yeah. So I mean, that's more of a different generations type.
Yeah.
I mean, you can go down a huge rabbit hole down there.
Pay-per-view.
You tell me an inappropriate joke.
Oh, you can't put me on the spot like that. I gotta think about it. All right.
All night.
Well, it's not all night. It's not really a joke, but when I've got people that call me, friends of mine that I know really well, my trademark is I answer the phone in pretty strange ways. And my favorite one is you'll call me and I'll let it ring for a second and I'll pick it up and I'll go, hey, this is Main Street Meat Market. You can beat our meat, but you can't beat our prices. How can we help you today?
There we go.
And there's one. The other one is, welcome to St. Anthony's Children's Hospital. You beat them, we treat them. How can we protect your reputation?
Interesting.
Yep.
Yeah.
So
gotta love
things,
the kids.
Things like that. So in terms of jokes, I don't have a lot of dad jokes.
Sohail, you got one? Guess not.
I keep looking at the sky. He goes, no, go away.
Pause. No.
My daddy though, that man has got jokes stacked up for eons.
So we could joke. Well, neither one of us are good at jokes, I guess.
Apparently not.
Apparently not. Sohail's not enjoying it. As far as random people watching this, like, what do you want the takeaway, walk away from our conversation, from earlier conversation? What do you want people most to know about you?
About me?
Sure.
I think that the number one thing is just that no matter where you come from or what you do for a living, that if you put God first, then God tends to have a better plan in store for you than what you have in store for yourself. And if you just trust in that and stay disciplined, then you'll never know the amount of people that you're going to meet. You're never going to know the places that you'll go. I've been very blessed to travel as much as I have. Hope to continue that. And so just putting God center in your life first and put him first before things and listen to that little voice inside your head. It's amazing the car crashes you'll avoid, metaphorically speaking, and the mountains you will climb.
Cool.
So.
Well, thank you so much for coming in.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed it. Real thankful.
Had a great time.
And then when you get TikTok famous, we can go back to this.
That's right.
So one last
yes,
because I was talking about predicting the future earlier. A friend, not a friend, somebody I know. She has a Netflix show, whatever. And then I remember texting her, going, "Holy crap, this is amazing! I bet you anything you'll be on Dancing with the Stars." And then she's like, "Oh." And then, like 6 months later, she
Dancing with the Stars.
She was on Dancing with the Stars.
Isn't that funny?
Who knows?
You never know.
I don't see Dancing with the Stars for you, but I do see.
I'll cut up a rug. I'll cut up a rug. You should see me at them weddings. After 7 of them, we've
7 drinks or 7 weddings?
No, 7 weddings.
Lilac shoes.
Some what shoes?
Yeah, the lilac tennis shoes. Oh, that's right. You weren't here for that. I'm in 7 weddings this year.
I don't even know 7 people getting married. Ever.
I didn't think I did either, but everybody got horny and just married each other at the same time, I guess.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and so that was the joke was we had lots of weddings, and after the ceremony, I put on these lilac tennis shoes because I like to dance, and I'll burn like 1,300 calories. I mean, we put the Apple Watch on and we start tracking.
You put the Nuva ring on.
Yeah.
I don't know the context, so I'm not going to respond. I'm going to sit here and just
got
smile.
the birth control ring confused with the exercise
Aura ring.
track.
That's not awkward at all.
He said Nuva ring, and I'm like, I'm pretty sure that's a birth control, but I ain't going to say nothing.
What you should do at these weddings, though, is like always catch the bouquet just so you can mount it on your wall.
Oh, there's a series of pictures, actually, of this last wedding I was in. They made me get into the whole crowd of the bouquet toss.
Like, yeah.
There's a series of me going, like, face and everything, slowly stepping out of frame as the bouquet is coming into frame. It's pretty comical.
Right. I don't know.
But
I'm so far removed from that. I'm so, when it comes to, like, the dating life, I am so bad that, like I have Bumble, whatever, but I forget that I have it. So
when
like,
you get on, there's like 1,000 notifications.
Well, no, I'm a dude. I don't have 1,000 notifications. I'm not a blonde female that does CrossFit. No, but but say there's like several, and I'm like, oh shit, my bad. And then so you're like, well, there's that missed opportunity.
Yeah, I got off those dating apps. I'm just, you know what? I'm just kind of waiting for God to put the right person in my life, and then just meet somebody the old-fashioned way. Because honestly, like I've never had luck with those things, and there's just.
Here's what
too many boys, not enough men out there nowadays.
So one of the conversations we have here, one of the things that I've learned, because we're going to go in the dating segment of this conversation. Just kidding. We'll end this.
We already did this earlier, yeah.
Well, but from my point of view, I think when you're younger, you have this long list of I want this. I want them to look. I want this tall. I want this. Da, 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 da. And then as you get older, at least for me, that list just got smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller.
Boils down to what your core values are and what you need in a person.
Mine, a year ago, came down to 3 things. Do I like talking to you? Do I like looking at you? Are you going to kill me?
Are you crazy? There's a lot of crazy people out there.
Fast forward a year. Now it's do I like looking at you? Do I like talking to you? I'll deal with crazy now. Like I'm cool with.
You'll be the female Jeffrey Dahmer, and I'm okay with that. Like,
look.
I got cat-like reflexes. I'll dodge that knife.
Can we have a good conversation? I'm just saying. So
I'll make you a drink. You want
take
something to
those
drink?
standards, just throw them out the window, just boil them down. Anyway, I think that's a fun place to stop.
That's right.
So you heading back to this evening, or are you sticking around, family?
Yeah, my dad's a part of this cigar group, and they're
oh yeah.
Yeah, so talking about meeting people.
Got to get out of here. Get those cigars.
That's all right. I'm not a smoker. I just come for the conversation, but some of these guys are just real estate, financial, just gurus. Just
shit, maybe I should go. I'll tag along.
Talk about a networking deal. Like, females aren't supposed to go to those things. My dad brought me in, and they're like,
oh, wow.
Okay, like, she's kind of cool. And there's talking about the amount of knowledge in that room.
Yeah.
I am a sponge. I just go in there, I
You
ask
have to.
questions, and learn from other people's mistakes, learn from other people's life lessons, and man, you will fast forward a lot.
I think that's the biggest lesson there. Is just learn from smarter people. Like put yourself in rooms where people are always smarter than you.
Yep, absolutely.
You know? If you are the smartest, well, you're probably not, but you should leave.
Yeah.
Well, cool. Well,
your
thank you
burnout-
so much.
That's right,
So,
thank
you got
you.
any final thoughts?
No, that was a fun day.
He's like, no.
He's like, get her.
All right, thank you so much.
Of course, thank you.
Hey, if you like that video, check out more. We got some over here, some over here, some over there. Check the description. Make sure you like, subscribe, and we'll see you next time.